We have the Democratic Socialists of America who are opposing America's support of Israel, and it is very dangerous.
Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show, everybody. Keaton in for Jimmy while he is on the road this week. I'm a New Yorker. My co-host Russ on our Do Dissident show is a New Yorker. This is a New York story. Here's Andrew Cuomo's response to the shooting outside of the Israeli embassy. There can be no tolerance for anti-Semitism, period. Enforce the law. So Andrew Cuomo, of course, running to be the next mayor of New York City. Here he is outlining his plans to undermine the First Amendment in the biggest city in the country.
Hate grows. Yesterday did not happen in a vacuum. There has been a progressive rhetoric, political mobilization that has been against Israel and has been anti-Semitic. We have not enforced the laws that we have in place. People say the issue is personal. It's personal for me also. I'm a New Yorker.
I mean, you did send, I mean, not you, but Eric Adams, who you are running against, did send hundreds of cops to Columbia University to break up the nonviolent sit-in at their campus hall. Those were staples of the 60s anti-Vietnam protests. And you sent the cops in pretty full force. The incumbent mayor did anyway. So I don't know what laws they're not enforcing, but he has a few more in mind.
It's personal to my family, to my brothers-in-law, to my son-in-law, to my friends. And as mayor, I would institute the IHRA standard all across the board. I would want every school child to visit the Holocaust Museum. We can have zero tolerance for anti-Semitic activity, period. Enforce the law. The law is clear, and enforce the law.
Okay, so the IHRA is the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. And here are some bullet points that summarize their definition of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or to the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than to the interests of their own nations. Denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination, for example, by claiming that the existence of a state of Israel is a racist endeavor. So to claim that a white European settler colonial apartheid state is a racist project is anti-Semitic, according to this definition. Applying double standards by requiring of it, meaning Israel, a behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation. Now, that is just completely warped and twisted. They are, of course, asking that a double standard be applied in their favor for their war crimes to be excused in ways that international law prohibits excusing of other war crimes committed by other so-called democratic nations. Using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, for example, claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel to characterize Israel or Israelis, drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. Now, earlier in this live stream, we showed you footage of these food lines that looked eerily similar to those in the concentration camps that the Nazis built for the Jews. And to draw that comparison, to notice that, and to articulate that is anti-Semitic according to the IHRA. And the last one, holding Jews collectively responsible for actions of the state of Israel. Now, that one just makes no logical sense because every other bullet point on this list basically equates Judaism with Zionism. So they're basically saying for every other bullet point, you can't criticize Israel without also criticizing Jews. So it is they who are making Jews then responsible for the state of Israel. If Jews are not collectively responsible for the state of Israel, then it ought to be possible to criticize Israel without criticizing Jews, which is something that I, a Jew myself, happen to feel. I feel that you not only can, but you should criticize Israel without criticizing Jews more broadly, but they don't seem to share that. And these are the standards that Andrew Cuomo seeks to impose upon New York City under a legal framework. Why? Well, notice he doesn't say this out loud, but this is true. Said to be mulling NYC mayor run, Andrew Cuomo joins Dream Team to defend Netanyahu. So remember, the ICC put out that arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu. Andrew Cuomo is on his legal defense team, a dream team built by who? Mr. Alan Dershowitz. I'm putting together a legal dream team to defend Israel. With its arrest warrants, the International Criminal Court disgraces the rule of international law. So here's from Cuomo's website, Cuomo for Mayor. To fight anti-Semitism, Cuomo says as mayor, the city will exercise enforcement over human rights law violations, even if DAs or judges will not. Part of multi-pronged plan to combat hate in NYC, standing in solidarity with the Jewish community, Cuomo outlines plan and address at West Side Institutional Synagogue. This city must ensure our Jewish brothers and sisters feel safe on every street, every day, every hour. That must be the mandate. Governor Andrew Cuomo, candidate for mayor of New York City, today outlined his multi-pronged plan to fight the rise of anti-Semitism. During a somber address at the West Side Institutional Synagogue, Governor Cuomo said he would have the city exercise its power to enforce violations of the human rights law, even if local district attorneys will not, and will make sure offenses are prosecuted to the fullest extent possible. So basically, he will prosecute discrimination cases, even if lower jurisdictions punt on the individual case at hand. Additionally, Governor Cuomo said he would pass a law codifying the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism into the city human rights law. So right there, what he's saying is that you can be legally, if not criminally, depending on the exact circumstances, charged if you violate one of these bullet points. If you say, looks to me like the IDF are behaving an awful lot like Nazis, it can be illegal to say that in Andrew Cuomo's New York City. That's what you're looking at. This is the Democrat in the race, by the way. Those Democrats seek adoption of an unmasking law to crack down on the type of anti-Semitic crimes such as harassment of Jewish New Yorkers and property damage by masked pro-Hamas protesters. Have the city school system adopt a curriculum that takes seriously the issue of anti-Semitism and other forms of bias. So, of course, harassment of people, vandalism of property is already illegal. Now, what they're talking about is anti-masking laws, assuming that everybody who wears a mask in New York City, which, if you've been to New York City, there are still a lot of people who wear masks for other reasons, whatever you might think of that. But this is what they're doing to try and crack down on anti-Israel sentiment and anti-Israel actions in the form of harassment and vandalism, adding this extra element of a human rights law violation, basically expanding hate crime possibilities there. Pardon me. So here is Andrew Cuomo with another video. Today, I was honored to address over 800 congregants at Congregation Kahalith. What the hell does that say? Kahalith Jesurun for Shabbat service on Manhattan's Upper East Side.
Cuomo, I just had the opportunity to speak at this temple about the growing threat of anti-Semitism and the lack of support for Israel. We have the Democratic Socialists of America who are opposing America's support of Israel, and it is very dangerous. New York City.
Why is it dangerous? Well, I mean, imagine someone saying this. Imagine someone saying this about any other country. And this, by the way, because Andrew Cuomo, hint, not a Jew himself. I'm a Jew myself. I could say, as a Jewish New Yorker, what makes me feel unsafe is guys like Andrew Cuomo saying that in order to support Jews, you must support what's going on in Gaza right now. That puts Jews in a lot of danger. I argue that Zionists use Jews as human shields. They hide behind Jews and say, well, you can't criticize what we're doing because to do so means you have to criticize Jews. They use us as a defense, us as a shield to hide behind their crimes. And you have Andrew Cuomo say it's a problem. This is recorded now. Germany is turning on Israel now. Piers Morgan is turning on Israel. Bono is turning on Israel now. And you still, now this was a few weeks ago. This isn't like last year. He's running for mayor. This is a campaign stump. Saying right now it's a problem that so many, and this is liberal New York, by the way. Deep blue city. Such good, tolerant, wonderful liberals in New York City, right? And here he is, the front runner for the Democratic nomination, which we'll get to in a second, saying it's a big problem that at this stage of this blatant, overt, in your face, grotesque genocide, it's a big problem that people aren't supporting Israel. I'm going to start this one more time.
I'm Andrew Cuomo. I just had the opportunity to speak at this temple about the growing threat of anti-Semitism and the lack of support for Israel. We have the Democratic Socialists of America who are opposing America's support of Israel, and it is very dangerous. New York City had the highest incidence of anti-Semitic activity in the United States. That is shocking, frightening, and incredible to me.
Now, don't forget, his definition of anti-Semitism is the International Holocaust Remembrance definition of anti-Semitism, which includes criticizing Israel as a racist project. So that's what he means when he says there's all these anti-Semitic incidents. Now, just in case you might be under the impression you could vote against this, spoiler alert, no, you cannot. Mayor Adams, pardon me, who is not running as a Democrat this time because he knows he would lose a primary to Andrew Cuomo. So it will be Adams versus likely Cuomo in the general election. Creates new mayor's office to combat anti-Semitism, dated May 13th, 2025. Now, as for the Democratic primary, Zohran Mamdani, who is sort of the progressive alternative to Andrew Cuomo for whatever that's worth. I don't think it's really worth running inside the Democratic Party for reasons we've been talking about for several years now. Here is the polling breakdown. And this is why I say Democratic Party primary voters are just the most useless political cohort in this country. Because despite all that language from Andrew Cuomo right now saying it's a huge problem that not enough people are supporting Israel, here he is lapping the competition. 44-22 in the first round. It's a ranked choice voting system in New York, so they keep going until one candidate reaches the 50% threshold. So the lower tier candidates are knocked out, and then depending on where their support goes, a winner is declared when one candidate crosses the 50% threshold. So by round 5, Cuomo crosses that 50% threshold, according to this poll, 53 to Mamdani's 29, which means Andrew Cuomo is almost certainly going to be the next mayor of New York City. And look at all the money he's raking in. Cuomo campaign raises unprecedented $3.9 million in just 80 days. The only thing that matters to these Democratic primary voters, especially in this context, is who they feel is big enough, tough enough, mean enough, strong enough, macho enough, alpha enough, if you will, to stand up to Donald Trump. It's the only thing that matters. It's the only thing that matters. That's why I knew Dan Goldman was going to win that primary in Lower Manhattan. You had some other candidates in the race who were better than him in almost every way. And I knew they had no shot because Dan Goldman, he did something with the impeachment. I don't know what the hell he did. But, he stood up to Donald Trump in the impeachment trial, whatever it was. And that is all that matters to these people. And so when they see Cuomo, they see someone who's big, who has a lot of clout, whose name pulls a lot of weight. They're clout chasers and they are star fuckers. That's who these Democratic voters are. The policy really doesn't matter all that much. And this is why it's a very, very scary situation where you have this supposedly liberal city, this cultural mecca is about to be handed over to a guy who's going to enact laws based on a completely warped view of what constitutes discriminatory speech and conduct and hate speech and conduct. And, I have to say, for YouTube, and I would say it anyway, because I feel it, that I'm obviously opposed to harassment, vandalism, violence of any kind. There are already laws on the books to prevent that. You do not need to take the extra step of implementing new laws based on completely perverse interpretations of what constitutes discriminatory speech and action, in order to try and win over support for what is clearly a vicious, murderous apartheid state. And the fact that he is the front runner for the city of New York tells you everything you need to know about what you're up against here. Because if the Democratic primary voters of New York City are going to choose Andrew Cuomo, as it looks very likely that they will, then you really are in a situation where there is no voting your way out of this. Not at the city level, not at the state level. And of course, as was demonstrated in the last election, where you had Genocide Joe versus Donald Trump, and then Kamala Harris, who vowed not to change her Israel policy at all, versus Donald Trump. There's no electoral solution to this at the federal level. And so you have to think about organizing legal, peaceful protests and boycott movements in order to shut the system down until a change is made. Because absent that, this system is just heading one way the wrong way, no matter who leads it on any level.
Come see us live in Los Angeles, Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, Ottawa, Glasgow, Manchester, Belfast, Dublin, London, Liverpool, Birmingham. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.